Welcome to the Unit Economics Podcast. I'm Josh Stavinsky. On today's episode, I'm joined by Nash Howe, founder of Currently Running. Currently is a new running apparel brand built at the intersection of product, art, and storytelling. We talk about going from creative work to physical product, sourcing and manufacturing, pricing, and what it means to build a brand with intention from day one. This was one of the most unique conversations I've had to date, largely due to the fact that Nash is just one of the most unique individuals I've ever come across. I really hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Nash, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. It's great to meet you. If you could just start with a background on yourself. In trying to prepare for this interview, it was unlike any other that I've prepared for, in that your background is so unique. I feel like you've worn so many different hats, and your path to getting to this point, it feels like it's just sort of taken a lot of twists and turns. And so just like a personal background would be awesome to start.
Yeah. Oh, a personal background. Well, I grew up in a big family. There's 4 boys and a sister, and we were always just very imaginative and playful. And I think when you grow up with all brothers close together, you're always borrowing each other's clothes. You're always fighting with each other, playing sports. You grow up competitive. You grow up dirty, filthy, playing, running around. And like, it was the best way to grow up. And we're also playing instruments. Yeah, very like musical, artful family. My parents worked in education, so we were always around that as well. And yeah, just sports and growing up in California was truly like, I mean, if it's a personal backstory, it's that.
I know that you've had quite a few creative endeavors throughout the years, and I know that that hasn't stopped. Could you speak a little bit about sort of all the creative work you've done, and I guess like what led to actually thinking, okay, I'm going to start this running apparel brand?
I've always had so many different versions of what I'd like to do when I grow up, you know? I've never had that one specific thing that I'd like to do. I just love to do a lot of different things. Music was like my first joy out in the arts, I would say. As like music was like the number one thing that I would go to, could come back from playing piano, playing drums. I was in band in 7th and 8th grade, and I was always playing sports at the same time. And I think there's some quote, it's like, once you know the way broadly, you see it in all things. And I know my way broadly as like an enjoyer of writing music, taking photos, and making films. And I've always explored those things without any fear of failure or like huge judgments from myself or from other people, because I got to practice them in very safe places. Like, I did music in college. I studied recording techniques and like the computer science side of building VST plugins, and can get really nerdy if you want. But like, there's so many different aspects of an art form that you could explore, you know, like the more you know, the less you know about music. Like, you can know that you love to do music, but how does that go from a passion that you know you love music to something that you can do functionally, like in society? And like, how do you make that a job? How do you make money?
I mean, did you want to be a musician at any point?
Yeah. And I dabbled in that a little bit out of school. Like, my first paycheck was for $500 because I licensed some music to a documentary. And I remember driving to Del Mar to the woman's house, and she like cut me a check. It was sitting there on the piano, and I like picked up the check and I called my mom. I was like, Mom, this lady just paid me $500 for my music. And she was like, oh my gosh, sweet, I'm so proud of you. Just the classic mom response. I could have told her it was $12 and she would have been so proud. But I didn't yet start to look for mentors in music to see, how do I make this a feasible thing where I can make money? Because I knew I enjoyed doing it, but I eventually learned, like, you don't want the feeling to change from making music, the reason you like making music, or the reason you like taking pictures or making films. The reason you begin doing it is there's like so much joy and curiosity in it. And slowly, when you start to do these things for work, I mean, it's more transactional for sure. And you're all then performing a service for something that you're technically proficient at, but doesn't mean you're fulfilled by it, because you have to do this service for somebody all of a sudden. Like, you start your life as an artist. And I think some people fall into just this service oriented act of making pictures or making music. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful job. It's a very low stress. I mean, all things considered, nobody's life is a risk. Like, nobody's true emotional state is like, you're not responsible for helping anybody out of anything emotionally, really. Even though it can be a very cathartic, like, beautiful experience, like, you work in the arts and making images and pictures. So it's always like been this juggle, you know? How it all came to form into a running brand is kind of just me always trying to stay really true to the feeling of like making things for myself so I can stay connected to why I love doing them. And I feel at the end of the day, I was kind of looking at my next 10 years and thinking how I'd like to like feel doing the work that I do. And I know it'll never be a 1-to-1 ratio of what you think something may feel like. But, I can confidently say, like, since starting brand and doing work for the brand, the people in the community that have, like, surrounded it and kinda, like, started to put energy with me and, like, push this thing down the road with me, it feels so good. I'm inspired every day to, like, make something. And it's so scary thing because nobody's asking you to do anything,
Mm.
Like, it's this whole new world for me where I'm trying to figure out how to put the left foot in front of the right.
It's clear to me that there's this through line of like just the visual arts and creativity and expression in that way, and then this passion for running and the two sort of colliding, which is really cool. So if we go back, my understanding is this brand only launched in April of this year. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, in
That's
April.
remarkable. I just saw it in the wild for the first time actually a couple weeks ago. I was at Running Wilder in San Francisco, and I was just, like, struck by, like, just the visual appeal of the pieces that I saw. I was like, I think this is, like,
Wow.
the next, like, one of the next big brands in running, and I would love to sit down and get to talk to you. I'd love to know about in the days leading up to getting your first product in hand, what did it look like? How did you go about finding manufacturers to work with? Did you have any experience working with textiles? How did you make it all come together?
Yeah. Great question. I think this is where I've learned through directing commercial work. Like, if
Mm,
you want to be successful directing commercials, you need to surround yourself with amazing producers, editors, visual effects houses, colorists. There's people who are just better than you at something or that know. And in that environment, you get learn to ask questions. And that's immediately what I started doing when I knew I wanted it to be a running brand. It was kind of a chain reaction of I knew I wanted it to be running because for my directing work, my biggest like focus was to direct things that I knew well. And I think when you do that, you are confident in doing it. And there's a reason that I was doing just running stuff because I love running. I love all the stories within running and I knew it. And I felt like I could do it in a very real feeling way and like move cameras in ways that felt different or very kinetic. And that's like the world that I knew. And so as soon as I knew I wanted it to be a running brand, obviously building a product is like one of the biggest three things that I was thinking about. There's like product, there's the marketing and the storytelling, and there's like the overall feeling of the brand and where you show up in the community. And I kind of had those second two just by living life and just being a product of my environment for the past like 10 years and trying to be productive in that community of runners and like brands. And for the product, I've ran in like every brand imaginable. I basically just started taking apart every pair of shorts and learning how they were built. Like,
mm,
there was no wrong place to begin in my mind. And slowly asking questions, I learned about these fabric fairs. There's one in Portland, New York called like Fantastic Fabric Fair. It's like literally just the most generic name. But you're at these places and you can find every fabric that has ever been like used in a pair of running shorts or tights or like any brand you could imagine you could find at these like fabric conventions. And I was just so beyond curious find these things. And as soon as I found out like I had to go to this fabric convention, I was like, Jesus Christ, I ended up here and I was like, I'm not a hyper social person. Like I was so overwhelmed by the sheer amount of fabric and it's also like such a new experience for me. I mean, ultimately finding a good fabric was super important, making sure it was a good cut. But I found a really good factory through a mentor of mine and started working with their pattern team. and basically like would cut shorts, sew them together and send them. And then the hardest part from there was sourcing a fabric. Like I sourced my own from these conventions and then also worked with their sourcing team. But this is also because I got the chip in from my mentor. And like he's super instrumental in like answering all of my questions. And I've had people like this in my life for music and for film. And I knew I was just the squeaky wheel gets the grease sometimes. But man, it took 3 years to get in a good spot.
Oh, wow, okay. So it launched in April, but you've been building this for several years now.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
my first prototype short was so bad.
Mm,
Was so bad. I mean, it was still like if you looked at the two next to each other, my like current like the Mile 2 short and the first prototype, it's like boxy silhouette with like pretty free flowing fabrics, but like the waistbands, the trims we were using, the zippers, like it was like 80% there. The liner was terrible. And then I changed the fabric of the liner, and all of a sudden it became this huge, unwearable thing because I made it like this thinner, less compressive fabric for the liner. But this was all just out of curiosity, I think.
mhm.
I treated it like anything else in my life. Like with music, I would just do it in my free time. And I just came back to, yeah, building that short, building a half tight. And I knew when I launched, I wanted to be able to style things. And that comes with just not only good colors, but good silhouettes that go well together. And so, like, you have to be hyper focused on the details, but never forget the big picture of at the end of the day, you need to make a feeling in a photo. And that was the part I was like always had in my brain. I'm like a very visual person. So, like, imagining how I would shoot it, like having all of these like mood boards and also like tech packs of how everything was looking all built together and then all these fabric swatches. Yeah, it was a process.
Yeah.
And now it's still a process now that I have good fabrics, learning how to keep the supply chain confidently growing. And
Yeah. What does that look like? I mean, have you been impacted by tariffs at all? I have to imagine you're working with a factory in China. Have tariffs impacted you at all? Have you had any sort of supply constraints at this point? And also, I'm really interested in the financing aspect. Was this bootstrapped? Did you have any funding? And how did you manage cash on hand? I think that's really difficult to do in earlier stages when you're
Mhm.
iterating and you're just trying to get product
Yeah,
developed. So what did that look like also?
it's all self-financed, so I was basically like, I haven't taken any big investment at all, and so the orders in the beginning were really small, and thank God we did pre-orders, or else those tariffs landed basically the month we launched, and I was able, like, through the factory, we had financing for 3 months to pay them back, and by the skin of our teeth, we were able to pay them back. Dude, it was like the scariest month of my life and also the most exciting month of my life. But I think it was such a big test of like, if you love something, you find out in the hard feeling, like scary feeling stuff, because you know you love this thing and you know that it's like scary and you're uncertain in this like fractured version of it that you're not entirely confident will work. But then when it does work, it just builds confidence in the system and the like the people around the brand.
Yeah.
It's still a work in progress, but slowly we're just like rolling everything back into itself so we can stock more fabrics. Now we can do custom color fabrics because in the beginning for the liner, we had to select just these dead stock fabrics from the factory.
Interesting. Did you base the rest of the pieces off of those colors? Like, did you have let's say a color scheme in mind to start and then have to work around that? Or were you like, this is sort of a blank canvas and I'm just gonna go with whatever's given to me?
I had colors from the start. I was basically like, I would like these earth tones.
Mhm.
Everything I wear is like, if you look at my closet, it's like brown, black, and white. My friend jokes that it's like Labrador colors. But fortunately they had some and enough to like create this feeling. And I'll always remember like finishing the prototype short and then scaling everything and sizing them from like extra small to large. And like seeing all the colors together in a room and just so excited because that wasn't that long ago. And now I've got like other colors like this cool brown and green and starting to play with sublimation as well. Like this is so fun.
Yeah.
I mean, every day I learn something new. It's fun.
as a creative, what's been the biggest, I guess, more technical learning for you thus far?
You've caught me in quite a profound moment. um, I think if I like biggest learning from wanting to start a brand to now, if I took Nash in Santa Cruz in his house trying to make these like clothes to me now and like those 3 year differences, it's just like how to communicate and tech pack something and develop a garment because that process in itself is so hard. I mean, there's so many stories in my life where I've been like I've got a few friends that own brands and run brands, and I've went and like I lived with my buddy for like 4 or 5 months in LA, and he owns this brand. They just do sweatpants, but I got to just sit in on their marketing team, how their product team worked. And they weren't working with a lot of SKUs, just like really good colors and materials. And from there, it was all like marketing and storytelling and e-com and then like ads. And I was in this like incubator, if you will, because I'm like a
Mhm.
sponge. Like I think that's also when you grow up with all these brothers, you're always observing why somebody's getting in trouble or why somebody's doing good. And then you're like trying to find where you fit into everything and you're trying to take lessons from all these moments and apply them so you can be good or apply them in a useful way without having to learn like the hard way. But also learning things the hard way is builds a lot of character and confidence, especially when you can work your way through them. Building product is easily if I was to look at all my different characters that I have to play, like that guy grew the most, but it's not necessarily what I want to be doing at the company. Like I want to be behind the camera telling stories. And maybe this will change. It'll be like a season, but I've been so deep into like the technical, I do all the web design too and like shooting e-commerce and I get so distracted by these like technicalities of the business that it's getting to a point where I'm like, I really need to ask for help for customer service and for like supply chain and product design so I can focus on like art direction and execution and community.
I guess how are you thinking about scaling the team on that topic? Who would you hire next? Like if you had to hire one person tomorrow, what role would you hire them for?
I think about this all the time because there's so many different like aspects to growing the business and first have to be super aware of where you want to be in the company because I like built this thing and now I need to start releasing control if I want to scale it, which I'm so happy to be doing. I thought it would be a scary thing to do, but it's a very liberating thing to do to ask for help. And I actually have been working with this freelance apparel like product designer for the past like month or two. And it has been so nice to like in the way I would do with films, like with a colorist, I would like build these ethereal decks on how I'd like things to be colored or like you just communicate through visuals. It's like how I do that. And then to do that with somebody who has so much skill in product design and to have them execute it is like, it's been so fun. But obviously like an apparel designer would be awesome. Yeah, somebody honestly to just like God, there's so much. Just to like to design the emails. I love doing the content, but implementing
Mhm.
it, the marketing
Yeah.
strategy is a whole nother job in itself. I'm kind of just slowly building the team because you also want people that come for the right reasons and seeing where they would like to grow personally because it is so like small. So I don't have money to incentivize people. But yeah, I think that's something I think about daily. And I think when the right people come along, I'll know to latch on. I truly, at the end of the day, want people who have a lane that they want to excel in and I can like let them be free.
Yeah.
I was just at the running event. It was a terrifying experience for me because that's where you see the whole cake laid out and you're able to see if you fit in or not. And you're able to read the room and you're able to just sit there and see who comes by and has questions and what they're asking and their observations too, because I don't get to decide where I fit.
Mm.
The room decides where I fit. I can bring this thing to the table, but I think it's everybody's opinion of where it lands. But I think it's landing in an artful way, in a thoughtful
Yeah.
way.
I mean, I think so too from my vantage point. It seems like it's really resonating with the running community, and the feedback that I've seen has been overwhelmingly positive. That has to feel really rewarding. Or are you like, "Nope, job's not done. There's still so much more to build. There's still so much more to do," or is it both?
I'm a kind of person who never gets too excited or too down. I live very much in these small windows of projects, I'd say, like in my head, where I can compartmentalize what's important and execute on it and then go to the next thing. I mean, I'm also good at like knowing 10 years down the road where I'd like to be in 5 years, but those are all just like they don't exist too much, you know?
Yeah.
But in the day to day, there's just small things to focus on. And yeah.
This interview is unlike any I've done so far in a very good way, and I feel like the way in which you're building this business is also very unique, at least just in terms of, who I've spoken with so far. And I feel like you can look at various companies, you can look at who's in charge, who's at the top, and you can say, "Oh, this is a marketer is running this company, like this is a marketing company." And you could say, "Oh, like a product person is running this company." And you can see it's very product forward. And I feel like you're like a creative director, in charge of this running brand. And it's just like it's so fascinating to watch and to hear about how you're thinking about things. I'm wondering, what other brands do you draw inspiration from,
Mhm.
both within the running world and outside of the running world? Brands or artists, or yeah, who and what do you draw inspiration from?
I think I've been a little bit jaded by the world of running. Like, I think so many brands do a good job at expressing, just as you were saying, there are some brands that are so good technically, like Arc'teryx. They're so technically proficient in what they do, and it comes across very seriously. And like they would like to measure each gram. And there are some brands that are so like creative and make these like beautiful worlds. Like Satisfy is one of those. Like Brees is an artist.
Yeah.
Like you can tell he's just wanting to build these different worlds and explore them. And one moment there's rock and roll, and now he's in the American West. And he's just having fun. And there are brands like Brooks and Running Rabbit and Janji that actually make very technical and well-built products, but they're more accessible, more relatable. They're not trying to be or speak for anybody. They are of a mild opinion, which is important for people who are approaching running in a way where it feels like, yeah, you can come run, you
Yeah.
can dance, you can go try them on at REI.
Yeah, very accessible.
Like, nobody's gonna look at you different for wearing John G or Running Rabbit or Brooks or, um, even Nike is like that. Like, they've made their own sub brand with ACG where they're
Mhm.
trying to be, um, cooler. Obviously, their marketing is very intense and edgy and has a strong opinion, and that's what they're good at. They know what they're good at, but they are so big. But again, you'll make no judgments based on somebody wearing Nike. Another brand I really like is Bandit because I see a lot of like similarities in the trajectory of where currently is. It's clear that they're like very thoughtful in how they show up and how they execute, how they communicate, and like they're very present, which I really admire almost the most out of them is like they're very present in the running community. They're showing up at like different marathons. They're putting a lot of effort into amazing photographers. Like they partnered with Joe Greer, who's like an incredible street and film photographer. I think they did a really good job at building whatever they're doing. And I don't know any
Yeah.
of the scenes of how they scaled to where they're at, but I appreciate how they still show up and still listen and are also building a very successful business. And their opinion is very like respected, whether it's artist design or Tim's engagements or Nick is like super dialed CEO. But everybody has these different angles and I study all of it. There's like no one brand that I don't look at. And District Vision, because I'm also trying to see where I could fit. Not change who I am to fit in, but seeing if it's possible. But I'm just, yeah, in California. There's District Visions here, but they're totally different vibe. I mean, Running Rabbit started in Santa Barbara and is different vibe. I think I draw inspiration from all of those different brands. At the end of the day, you want to make this like as a brand, you want to make something that feels a certain way, an opinion, or at least that like Hans Zimmer said, films ask you to feel something, music tells you to feel something.
Hmm.
And I feel like a brand should tell you to feel something also.
We need more Hans Zimmer quotes on this show. That was the first, and I hope it's not the last.
I love Hans.
Yeah, as do I. There's so much to dig into. I'm also a huge fan of Bandit, and I've been watching them grow for a while. I remember very early on getting my first pieces of Bandit apparel, and now I see Bandit all over the place, and it's kind of like watching a band that you love that's small that balloons, and you're like, oh yeah, I was there from the beginning. Like that's very cool. So I've been following them for a while, and they've opened a couple retail stores now. Is that something you want to do, or do you think that you're going to stick with D2C? What's your plan for scaling? What's your plan for distribution?
My plan for scaling is this: scale. I was actually just on the east side in Los Angeles looking at the space to test in March.
Like for a pop-up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking for a month because I did a week in New York and it was amazing.
Yeah. I saw that, yeah. How did that go? What did you learn from putting on a pop-up?
Man, so much. Because in my studio in LA, I like had these photos and a certain layout and knew that I could duplicate it in New York. But my friend was like, I don't see what should be so hard about building a retail store from scratch from 3,000 miles away and you have one day to build it. What could possibly go wrong? But I'm an optimist and pretty handy with the tools. So I think the biggest learning was like I really didn't want to take it down. It felt so nice to have
Mm.
this place where people could come and be with each other and see the products and hear the brand story and chat with um like various brands that would come through and individuals. It was so fun. And like the logistics. I had like 14 different tracking numbers from like 3 different countries to source all the products to come into the shop. So obviously I learned having more time is better. I never like to feel rushed in anything, but like that specifically was a grind to make that all happen. But yeah, I think ultimately I learned, I mean, that was a scary thing that I did to try to do a pop-up. It was terrifying.
In what ways? I mean, because again, I'm looking at this company, I'm looking at this brand, I'm looking at what you're building, and I'm like, of course it's going to be successful. Like, in what ways was that scary?
I think I had never done it before, like doing anything for the first time. If you're not a little bit scared, it's too easy. So I was a little nervous. I wasn't sure how it would go. I'm really like not the best planner of like events. And so I just want everybody to have a good time. But like when it comes down to like logistically making all of these plans and seeing if they'll go well, like I was a little like, I hope this is a good idea. And I hope I ordered enough product and I hope it's worth it. I also learned I need to put New York on something, because I didn't do that for the pop up. And I was joking, yeah, with this other person who's got a brand. And they're really good at that, I'll say.
Putting New York on their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Bandit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They do a good job. They do a great job putting New York on stuff, though. I have, multiple pieces from them that have New York on them, so I get it.
They own it. I mean, that's amazing. And they
Yeah,
give back a lot. All my favorite rap music, they claim where they're from.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
It's time to start claiming Santa Cruz.
Claim Santa Cruz. I know. But yeah, I learned that it's just a beautiful experience and like it's hard, but it's worth it. Asking for more help, more changing rooms, more bathrooms.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Always a good thing.
I'm very excited to see what you build in LA. I'm very excited to see what that looks like come March.
I'm so excited. Yeah, it's in the arts district. It's so beautiful. You just want to stay in that area and just see all the different galleries and there's some beautiful curations there. It's so
It
cool.
feels like the perfect sort of location for you and for what you're building. Like it just to a T, it just feels like the right space for currently. Yeah, I'm very excited to see how it pans out. I've
Yeah.
got a couple more questions. So going back slightly, I had read that part of the motivation to create Currently was that you felt like the pricing of the products that you were interested on the market were not the pricing was not accessible. And I'm curious how you think about pricing now. I feel like your products are, I would say, very reasonably priced for the quality, but I think that somebody maybe with less familiarity might think that they're quite expensive. And so I'm just curious how you think about pricing generally and how you weigh margins, your
Mhm.
costs. Yeah.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, I have like being coming from the marketing background, it's like a superpower in itself. And being so slim, like having just me at the company, there's room in the margin for like not making as much on each garment. But it's also like I knew in the beginning people were going to immediately compare this brand to other brands, to price points of other brands. I wanted it to be at a price point where people there is a psychology behind like how much you'll care for something based on
Hmm.
how much you spend on it. And I wanted people to care for the garment, but I also want to be in this accessible premium, like the textiles in Italy. It's like such good fabric, such good build. And compared to other shorts of the similar price range, it's
Yeah.
so good. I mean, everything's priced kind of around $90, which isn't super cheap. It's not like $60, but it's also something that I hope you'll take care of. Or at least like when you give this gift to somebody or something like that, they'll feel like, oh my God, this is really nice. It's just all direct to consumer too. I'm not
Yeah.
doing like that was another thing at the running event is like all these stores wanted to open accounts and distribution wanted to like put in forecasts and order. And I was like, not ready for that yet because it's so important that I'm involved with every touch point right now because it's such a fragile thing because it is so young. But I think as the months goes on, we finish out the year and the perspective is a bit more solid and the room, the slice of the cake is more solidified and the perspective is more developed. Then, I mean, when you scale any business, you start to lose control of those touch points. And it's super important that you trust those people that you go into retail with or distribution with. And it also requires a team that can communicate the feeling of the brand well. But yeah, it's a whole new, like, I'm sure if we talk again in like 1 year,
Yeah.
I will have much to report back.
Yeah.
I'm sure like by this time next year, I'll have a whole team and I'll be finding my lane within all of them and yeah, growing with them and hopefully just like elevating the feeling of the brand and the brand in general.
Yeah.
And yeah, keep doing beautiful work and telling beautiful stories.
I would love to sit down and record again a year from now just to see what progress has been made and
Yeah.
how things look different. And I think that tees up my final question perfectly. Where do you see Currently going 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now? What's the vision for the future look like?
This is the 250th day of being in business.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Learned so much, but I do feel like we've made it from 0 to 1. The 0 was probably 3 years ago. 1 was kind of in April, but it feels like now I'm in a position where I can start to actively make creative decisions that are more holistic for the brand, and, like, I have a grip on all these variables that need to be sent down these certain channels. But the goal for the past year was to emotionally communicate this feeling of running in a very universal way, in an approachable way, but also with this like ethereal nature to it. And to come across, like to really express myself as an artist and
Hmm.
as a visual storyteller and pair it with apparel that feels very good to run in, to be in, to be associated with. And now that it feels like that, like the slogan, like phrase was run the earth. And that's like, was very holistically like wanted to capture the beauty of the world and how running is a very artful thing and really is pretty borderless. And it's like a tool to express my love for photography, but also my friends and like tell their stories. And this next year, truly focusing on grounding in LA and in California and doing a lot of storytelling here also goes back to the phrase of like write what you know, direct what you know. I was kind of just so hell-bent last year on taking all of my experience from shooting around the world for running brands. And I was like, I think I could do that. I could feel like that. I could feel like a big brand. I can do these things that brands pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. And I can just go with my friends and take some clothes and a camera. And I can feel big, like a big brand. I knew I could do that because I've been practicing it for so long with like selling the idea, communicating it through visuals, executing, delivering, and then moving on with my life. But like that was the goal. And I think it's being accepted as this. Some people think that it's like some big team. That's a blessing and a curse because
Yeah.
I'm not a big dude. I'm a little guy. I'm a tall guy. But I knew it was important, or I was curious to try to come across in that way. And this year is all about reconnecting in California or connecting California, um, and owning that, and still doing a bit of storytelling everywhere else. But um, it's a place I love and it's very dear to my heart. And I think for the business, ultimately, it's super important to like own where you're from. There's so many brands that like have done it successfully, like Fiore did it in San Diego. Bandit obviously did it in New York. And I just like, I see an opportunity here because
Yeah.
there's running brands here, but I'm a little bit competitive. And I would just like be so stoked to see this through and to at least give it a try, and see how big or how well we can connect in LA
Yeah.
through various like runs. I love music too and like music production. Talk about like things that I'd like to do for next year and like these different music nights and exploring more tertiary things to running, not just like run club stuff, but the different through lines of like art and photography and music, and not just the celebration of them by listening, but also by like being a participant in these things. Because I think people show up. I'm curious to see what happens when I make the space for people to show up, see who shows up, and just kind of go from there.
If I were to say 5 years from now, currently is blank, and you had fill in the blank with what you think success would look like or what success would mean, how would you fill in the blank?
Whoa, so hard.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard thought exercise, but I'm curious. Could make a really good soundbite.
5 years from now, success for currently looks like not just me, but many like-minded people like myself exploring art and running in a way that feels very organic and spontaneous, but also very rooted and grounded. And if currently over the next few years can be a place to reach from, I think in 5 years, if there's a version of this garden that is just 5 times bigger, I guess, and there are so many other artists creating and telling stories in running and empowered. I would like to empower artists and empower athletes and people in the community that are making a difference and like spreading optimism in the world of running. I think that's amazing. I think if people associate with the brand still with sincerity and not too much seriousness,
Mhm.
then we're doing everything right. If we can create freely and run freely, then that's all we need, really.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Nash, if you want to share with listeners where they can find Currently, feel free to do so now.
Oh, you can find Currently at currentlyrunning.com. And if you need customer support, Nash at currentlyrunning.com. Hopefully by the time this is live, though, I have some support in that department.
We'll see how quickly you hire, yeah.
Yeah, please apply.
All right, thank you so much, Nash. This was so inspirational and so informative, and I really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And had a lovely time chatting. Thanks for all the good questions.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you can stay up to date with the latest episodes. Thanks for listening.